Hi guys, welcome back to another video inside of my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about something quite different and quite open. That is because I just feel that I need to just kind of talk about it and show more like representation about like what is going on with me and what could potentially going on with you, because you clicked on this video after all. It could be because you're going through it could be because you're confused about if you are or if you're not, or it could be that you're genuinely just curious about what's happening with me or what's happening with people around you. So this is kind of a little safe space that I'm going to talk about the thing I'm going to be talking about. So recently I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, and if you don't know what that is basically an eating disorder, which I don't really know the definition. I don't want to like say it wrong, but I will basically explain what it says on Google. Anorexia is an eating disorder where you feel you need to keep your weight as low as possible. Symptoms of anorexia include believing you're fat when you're a healthy weight or underweight, eating very little or missing meals. Anorexia is usually treated with talking therapy such as cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, well, anyways. But yeah, that's basically what it is. That's basically what I have. So I'm going to be kind of talking about my experiences with it so far. Currently, right now, I am in my very early stages, like literally like a few, like 2 or 3 weeks into my recovery. But I was lucky enough that I kind of caught it quite early on, but still it has gotten to a bad stage. So I'm going to be talking about everything. I won't be going into so much depth because a lot of it can be triggering. So I won't be saying like my weight as numbers. I won't be saying any of that kind of stuff where it's just kind of getting too personal. Like even if you didn't have it, you'd still be like, well, why are you saying that? So first I'm going to start with when it kind of started. So it is currently November. It is 13th of November as of filming this, and it started around early July. That's when I was kind of seeing symptoms of it and seeing that something wasn't quite right and what I was doing was kind of weird. So I went on holiday to Turkey in the summer, in the beginning of July. So it was like the 10th. When was it? Was it the 10th or like the 13th or something? We went on like the 13th of July to Turkey for a holiday, and we hadn't been on holiday for ages because of the pandemic. So we hadn't been on holiday. Our last holiday was 2019, so this was our first holiday in 3 years, and it was very exciting. And I just turned 15, so that means 3 years ago I would have just turned, well, thinking about it, yeah, I just turned 12. Whoa, that's crazy. So yeah, I just turned 12, and a lot can happen, especially when you're an adolescent boy. A lot can happen between when you're 12 and when you're 15. Your body changes. So this is the first time I had been in swimming trunks, surrounded by people in the same thing, swimming trunks, like no tops on, just swimwear. And it had been the first time I'd done that in 3 years, and it kind of shocked me that everyone was quite, well, let's just say a lot of people over quarantine had nothing to do, so they'd go to the gym. I didn't do that, and I don't like the gym. I've never liked the gym. I started to have quite, like, not great thoughts on myself, and I started to think, oh, well, maybe I, should look like that, which was kind of weird at the time because I've always been very skinny, and yeah, I've always been very skinny all my life, and I've always been known as the skinny boy, which which is kind of weird, because how can someone who has been said they're skinny their whole life just go into this spiral of badness? So on holiday, I started to get very self-conscious with myself, and I started just not eating as much. This wasn't at a bad stage, so I think I kind of played it off as if I didn't eat, I would just tell my mum, oh, I missed Western food. Like, Turkey has different food to here in England, so if I didn't eat it, I'd just be like, oh, I kind of just miss, like, the food we have at home. So that was kind of a good scapegoat at that time. And then I think when I got home, I kind of didn't think about it for a few weeks, so it was kind of normal. Sorry about that, my battery ran out, even though it said it was on full charge, but you know, I put another battery in. Anyways, where was I? So yeah, I kind of forgot about it for a few weeks, and this was like still very early on in the summer holidays. We literally went on holiday the week that I broke up. Well, that's not true. I broke up on like Friday, and I went on like the next Friday, I think. So it was like a week after I broke up from school. Then I went there for 11 days, and then I kind of just had a relaxing time for like 7 and a bit weeks. No, 6 and a bit weeks. I was at home doing nothing basically. And I don't really have friends that I see a lot. I don't meet up with any of my friends from school. The only friends I meet up with are my 2 friends. One of them doesn't go to my school anymore. We went to primary school together, but then he moved. And one from my school, which were like best friends. So I only meet up with those 2, but they were both on holiday at the time, so I was by myself a lot, just sitting in my room. And when you're kind of bored like that, you kind of just start worrying about silly things because you're bored. And I think that's where I kind of started to have thoughts again about eating in a not so good way, and that's kind of how it started. Okay, so next I'm going to be talking about is kind of again how it went down. So I was not I started to kind of worry about food a lot, and at this point I don't think it was about weight. I don't think I had got to that mindset, but I was just worrying about food. I was just kind of like, I'd see food and see it as quite scary for some weird reason, and I'd kind of like not want to eat ever. So I kind of just like really started to stop eating. But again, at that point it wasn't like I need to stop eating. It was kind of just like I don't need it. Like I don't, it's not like I need to stop, it's I don't need to eat, you know? It's kind of like, I find them quite different. So I just kind of stopped for a bit, and I would eat something. I think I went one day with just eating a Tim Tam, a whole day with just a Tim Tam, and that was kind of bad. I think my parents were on holiday actually, or they went on a little weekend retreat actually, I can't remember, but yeah. And that's kind of just, it started, that's when it like got more prone. And I remember the kind of the turning point, the day I knew that something was just not clicking. I was sitting at my desk, I had just ordered something from the chicken shop, and I got something from my brother as well, and I got the box of chicken and fries. I put it in front of me, I opened it, and I looked at it, and I was like, I basically just had a weird panicky episode, and I just looked and I was like, I can't eat that, I just can't. And I got really just kind of overwhelmed. And I think at the same time I was actually on a call with my friend, and I was very shaky. Mind you, this is the first time I've eaten all day, and it was like 5 p.m. So I was very shaky, I was very weak and quite nauseous, and I just looked and I was like, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. And I just pushed it aside and kept playing with my friends. And that's when I thought something isn't quite sitting right. So I think a week after that incident where I was still very worried about food and things, I told my friend, one of my friends, the one that still goes to my school, and I told her, something's not quite right now. I kind of have a fear of food. Is that a thing? Do you have it too? And she was kind of like, no, but what are you trying to insinuate? And I was kind of like, well, I don't know. And I hadn't done any research on what an eating disorder was. I just had heard the word, didn't know what it meant. I still, as you could tell, I don't really know what it means because I had to look up what it meant. But she was like, you should probably tell someone and get it checked out before it gets bad. And I was like, no, it's fine. I'm just being silly. Fast forward a few months later, I'm off school. I'm not allowed to go to school because of what's happening. So it kind of spiraled, and it got to the point where it was the end of the summer holidays, and I was like, I'm kind of scared about going to school because I'm not eating right, and I can't eat in front of people, and I stopped eating in front of family members, and I started like mirror checking, is that what it's called? A lot, literally a few hours were taken out of my day just staring in the mirror in my bathroom, and it's crazy, like what the hell, and I still do it, of course. So I hadn't been diagnosed with anything, I hadn't spoken to anyone except my friend briefly, but then I kind of ignored it and never like spoke about it again. So that's just kind of when it was like, okay. So school started and it went even more downhill. I was absolutely petrified to my bumhole to eat in front of people at school at lunch. So I'd generally eat like lettuce and a slice of bread, and I have never eaten breakfast in the morning. I stopped eating breakfast in like year 1 because I didn't get up early, so I just wouldn't eat breakfast. So, and again, my mum didn't think it was an issue, so it would always be like I wouldn't eat breakfast. I'd eat school lunch, I'd come home, I'd snack a lot, and then I'd eat dinner and probably snack after dinner. That's like my normal day before any of this happened. But at that point at school, when school started, it was I'd eat no breakfast, I'd eat very, very, very little lunch, I'd refuse any snacks secretly, and then I'd eat a bit of dinner. And that's when you could see a fluctuation in my weight. Again, I'm not going to talk about numbers because it's irrelevant, but I was starting to lose a bit, and when you don't eat, I think, don't quote me on this, your body gets energy from energy storage, like fat on your body, and that's when you start losing weight, is because you're not eating food to get energy. So your body is taking energy from your fat stores, and that's basically how you're surviving. I know, it's a scary concept, but yeah, and that's how I started realizing, wait, I'm kind of getting skinnier. And when you see a weight fluctuation is when weight became a big problem with me. I would see and I would feel and I'd weigh myself a lot. That is a thing. I'm banned from the scales right now, except when I go on weekly checkups to the clinic, but I am banned from scales. I can't use them at home unless my mum wants to weigh me, which is a different story. But I was weighing myself a lot on my mum's scales. Every day I'd weigh myself before and after meals, and that's when things got worse, and I'd start thinking that I'm overweight. And I just thought that I just have that as a daily routine for a few weeks, and then, okay, that's a exaggeration for like a week, because on the second week of school I went in on a random Tuesday and I was feeling very, very, very weak. I was feeling very faint. I was shaky to heart's content at lunchtime. I didn't eat anything again. Well, that's exaggeration. I didn't eat much. I still had like a few mouthfuls of like bread and maybe like rice probably. And I was feeling very, very shaky, and I was like, I just want to go home, and I just want to go home, and I just want to cry. on my bed. Went to the medical centre at my school, like the nurse's office, and I was like, I feel very shaky, and I was like, well, no, I went in and they were like, hi, how can I help you? And I was like, I don't feel so good. And she looked at me, she said, yeah, you don't look so good. And I was like, wow, okay, thanks. Anyways, but so I went in there, I was like, I'm shaky, I don't feel great. And she was like, okay, have you eaten anything today? I was like, yeah. And she was like, what'd you eat? I was like, I've eaten cereal and I'd eaten rice and pork, lying through my teeth about what I'd eaten. I'd always lie about eating breakfast. Every time, even before this happened, if someone asked, what have you had for breakfast? I'd be like, cereal or toast, even though I had nothing, but yeah. And she was like, okay, have you felt ill? I was like, yeah, I don't feel great. And she was like, does your mum know? And I was like, yeah. And I think a few days before, she caught me in my mum, she caught me in my room very upset after school. I was like a little bit teary, just kind of like tearing on my bed, and she was like, what is going on? Me and my mum have always been very close, we'd always talk about things, and she was like, what's going on? And I was like, I just kind of told her, after her persuading me a lot, that I didn't tell her anything that much. I was just kind of like, I don't really eat as much and it's made me sad. She was like, are you trying to say something? Again, I was in denial about me having an eating disorder, but she was still just like, are you sure? And I was like, I don't think it's that at all. I just think I'm stressed with school. And she was like, okay. And she'd also kind of clocked that I was not eating as much, and I'd normally eat a lot, so that's very unlike me. But again, I was just like, I'm stressed with school. So then the nurse called my mum and was like, Jonah is very shivery, he's weak, he's got high blood pressure, and he says he wants to come home, is that okay with you? And my mum was like, oh, this is where it gets bad. So she came into school, and I was sitting in like the student bit, which is where you sit when you're like waiting, and the doors closed. It was like the boy student bit. And I heard my mum enter the building, and I heard her, and she was like, can I talk to you guys in a separate room? And they were like, yeah, let's just go in here. And I was like, oh my god, my mum is telling them. And I remember 10 minutes of silence, and all I could hear was muffled voices and my heart racing. And the nurse came back in, and she was a lovely nurse. I really like her. She came back in, she was like, hi Jonah, have you eaten today? And the nurse had already asked me that, and I was like, I just shook my head. I didn't even say no, I just shook my head. She was like, do you want something to eat? Would you like a biscuit or anything, or a slice of toast? I was like, no. And she was like, are you sure? And before I said anything, she was like, okay, let me get you a biscuit. So I think she got me a biscuit, and then she brought me into the nurse's office, where there was a nurse, and then it was her, a second nurse, and my mum and me. And the nurse said to me, she was like, so your mum told me you haven't been eating. And we just had a big deep conversation about how it's dangerous. And then they weighed me, and then they took my height and they calculated it, and they found out I was underweight. I don't think I was massively underweight at all. Again, I don't know, but yeah, I was underweight for my height and my age and my build and just everything. And she was like, we're taking you off dance. And that's a big step. To be taken off dance that quickly and that drastically is because I go to performing arts school, so every day we dance, we sing and we act. And they took me off dance because that's like a fitness, and they took me off fitness as well, like weightlifting. So they took me off that. It was like, you're not allowed to do that until we see a change in yourself. And I remember coming home that day, that was a big thing. I genuinely thought that day that I would just be able to go home because I felt ill. I didn't think that I'd be taken off dance and I'd be referred to the doctors and the GP and the hospital. And a lot of things just happened, and it all kind of escalated very, very quickly. And I just got taken off dance. So that's like the first bit. So now I'm gonna get into the second bit, which was like kind of nearing to when it got to its worst. It's still kind of at its worst, but I'm working on it. So a few weeks in, we do 6 weeks and then we have like a half-term break, which is a week off. And at that point, it had been, I'd say, 5 weeks. It had been 5 weeks. And I was seeing a counsellor at school, which I don't see anymore because I'm not going to school. I was seeing a counsellor at school and I was getting monitored by medical centre a lot. And things were just getting worse and worse. I was getting more conscious about my weight. Knowing that I was underweight told me that I was overweight, and I would keep restricting, and I would look in the mirror a lot, and I just look in the mirror and cry, and then I'd look in the mirror and just get mad at myself. I remember just like, it's really stupid, but I'd punch my stomach thinking it would go in. And then not just my stomach, I'd start to look at my legs and I was like, oh my god, my thighs are huge, I need to get rid of that. And this is all what's happening in my head. And I just want to quickly say it, because you've seen a lot of me in my videos, like I do wear a t-shirt and I think my arms are huge. And this isn't me telling you that I am a fat person. I am not telling you that at all in the slightest. This is not a video to have me make you feel like you're overweight or you're not good enough because you're body conscious. This is my brain telling me I'm not good enough. It has nothing to do with any of you guys. So if you see me and you're like, well, how could you be telling yourself you're fat when, I don't know, I'm bigger than you? That means I'm fat. No, but I think I'm fat. That's the whole problem with the illness, is it's very manipulative. So even being taken off dance, so I was doing no fitness, I was still losing weight, and I'd have weekly checkups, and for about 3 weeks I'd go in every week and they'd be like, you've lost again, and you've lost again, and you've lost again. And it got to a point where my parents were so fucking scared, and they were like, Jonah, they were like, Jonah, you need to stop this because you will be in hospital. And I was like, chill, just chill, nothing's wrong. Again, that's the illness talking to you. I'd be like, Mum, nothing's wrong, I'm not even underweight, and I'm not even, they're all just lying, they're all gaslighting you. And they looked at me, and this was like night time, and they looked at me and was like, Jonah, you look like an anorexic. And I was like, no, I don't. Again, it's very denial, this illness. And they're like, Jonah, you need to stop this. And they pulled up a picture of when I was on holiday, looking apparently healthy weight. I look at that picture now still and I think I look like an obese muffin. And then they took a picture of me just then, and they showed it to me, and they're like, Jonah, can you not see the difference? And I did. But in my brain, I was telling myself that it was good that I had seen this difference. And it was a very big eye-opener that something bigger is happening. And my brother came in, and I don't talk to my brother about anything like mentally because he struggles with his own mental problems, so I don't talk to him about it, and we've never kind of had that relationship. We have a very good relationship, we're very friendly towards one another, but we never talk about that. And he came in and he was like, Jonah, I'm worried for you. And at this point I felt very scared because I had 3 family members surrounding me on my bed, and they were just telling me how ill I am and how ill I look. And you guys could take that and see that my parents weren't being supportive, shoving it in my face that I look ill. But in this sense, you just have to know the truth. To them, I looked ill. In that split second, I looked at that photo of me on holiday, and I looked at that photo of me now, and I looked ill. And that was another turning point, that something was not right, that it was getting bad. And they were like, Jonah, if you lose any more weight. And again, I was like, you guys are so overreactive. And my brother told me what happens when you don't eat and what your body does to survive. It basically eats itself, and that's why you have kidney failure, heart failure, liver failure, and that's why your body starts failing. because your body's eating itself to stay alive. It's trying to nourish itself. And yeah. And then I went to the GP that week and she was like, you've lost again. I haven't been put in hospital, which is a very big relief. But she was like, you lost again, Jonah. You're not allowed to go to school now. And here's your meal plan, and you need to eat breakfast, and you need to have a snack, and then you have to have lunch, and you have to have a snack, and you have to have dinner, you have to have a snack. Basically, eat every 2 hours. And in my head, that was the scariest thing, because I had not eaten nearly that much in months. And yeah, and I quickly just want to jump in and say, I know a lot of people struggle with EDs for years under 21, and I don't want people to think of this as me rubbing it in your face that mine has got to a stage where I told someone, and I'm not going to invalidate any of you, but the thing is with mine that is hard for me, I was always very skinny and I was always on the lower weight of a healthy weight. So, and I'd eat a lot. So I'd exercise constantly. I'd eat so much in a day and I'd be of a healthy weight, but very skinny and very low. Like, so for me to randomly stop eating any calories for a few months on my skinny body, it just went downhill very quickly. And that's why I feel like it could have gone a lot worse, and I caught it very early on, but it still got to a very bad stage, if that makes sense. I was very close to being in the hospital. So yeah, and I haven't been at school. Eating is still very hard for me. I'm gonna start wrapping it up now because that's basically where I'm at now. And I get checked up every week by a nurse, and also have a physical checkup where they weigh me, take my blood pressure and my blood sugar. Most of the time my blood pressure's high. Don't know what that means though. And yeah, I am in a recovery plan, and the first week of my recovery I lost again, and I was like, I'm literally eating so much. In my brain I was eating so much, but I still wasn't eating as many calories as I should have been eating, because when you have an ED, well, my one, anorexia, you have to, if you're recovering, you basically have to eat more calories than someone normal, because you kind of have to put on weight. And yeah, and I was not eating more calories, I was still eating less calories than a normal person. And I'd also dance a lot, full out in my room after every meal. Subconsciously it just felt right. It's not, because that's what was making me lose. I was eating better, but I was dancing so much to the point where I was like collapsing. I didn't collapse, I was very tired. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot a bit. The reason that, again, I was kind of off school is because I had 2 fainting episodes, which don't seem that bad, but because everyone faints for different reasons, but it's the reason why I fainted is because my body could not like take it anymore, so it shut down on me. And I wasn't even exercising, I was in the car, sitting in the car, and my dad looked at me and he was like, Jonah, I'm so scared for you. So I'm in my recovery phase, and saying everything I've said is, it kind of sounds like, looking back, I kind of contradicted everything I say about being in recovery. And the thing is, of course you don't want to be hospitalized, no one wants to be in a hospital, especially at Christmas time, but the dangers of the illness is that you don't want to get better. And I'm gonna sit here now, and it changes of course when I don't want to get better. And I think that's a very normal feeling and needs to be represented more, because no one is that it tricks your mind into thinking you don't. Because if I wanted to get better, I think I'd be way better now. But I don't. So you're fighting that. You're fighting not wanting to get better and having to get better. And that's the problem with this illness. And it validates your bad days. And like, if you're really, really upset because you're low on energy, it will validate it. The illness will be like, yeah, because you haven't been eating and that's good. When in reality, it's not good. So that was kind of a video on my personal experience with the illness right now. This was quite hard to make, in my opinion. Currently I am maintaining a low weight. I haven't gained anything yet for the past few weeks. I'm maintaining because it's hard to gain it back, especially with my extremely fast metabolism. I think that's also why it's been quite hard for me to maintain or not to lose it, because I have a very, 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 very fast metabolism. And yeah, so thank you for watching this video. I hope it has given you an insight of what I'm going through. And again, I made this video because in society it's still perceived that an eating disorder to a boy is very like liar. And I am watching this documentary about this boy that had it, and a lot of the comments were literally people saying boys can't get eating disorders. And then what have I got? Like, come on. And the representation about boys and eating disorders is very hush hush, very frowned upon. You can agree to disagree on that. It genuinely is a fact. And that's why it's been a lot of denial for me, because again, in my brain I have thought that I don't have it. I still have those thoughts that I'm just in denial, but it's real. And I think it's important to represent boys, especially teen boys, with eating disorders, because it's real. And I think a lot of people need to get that in their brains, that it's real. And I haven't seen a lot of representation with boys, especially with anorexia. I've seen not even nearly enough, but a few with bulimia. So I think it's good to spread awareness and to educate yourself on the matter. Yeah, so if you feel like you're struggling, or you know that you are struggling, this is a safe space where you can feel free to comment your stories down below, and I'll read them if you have amazing recovery stories that could help me and help other people. Or if you're in the bad stage and you need someone to talk to, feel free to comment down below or anything. Because at the end of the day, sorry, my camera's turned off. I didn't know I had a 30-minute marker. But yeah, if you're struggling like me, then feel free just to comment down below. And yeah, we'll get through this together, guys. And I love you so much. Bye-bye.